You are listening to the Bold Dreams Held Loosely podcast hosted by myself, Taryn Watts, and my colleague and dear friend, Michelle Theriault. We believe that the quality of the conversations you're inside of shapes the quality of your life. Whether that's a conversation you're having with others, listening in on, or contemplating within yourself, what you think about and where you direct your energy matters. At the Mind Rebel Academy, we train and support change makers to step into their life's work as world-class coaches and leaders. After mentoring hundreds of people from around the world, what we've come to realize is that the most extraordinary coaches and leaders have one thing in common, and this is that they are wildly devoted to living deeply examined lives. After all, you can only go as deep with another as you're willing to go within yourself. And this podcast is just that. Michelle and I, two coaches and leaders, having raw, honest, very human conversations that are expanding our minds, opening us up to new possibilities, and keeping us steadfastly committed and focused to walking our path towards our deepest yearnings and greatest visions. And our intention is that these conversations do the same for you. So get comfy and settle in. And as always, you're invited to take what's for you and gently leave the rest. Enjoy. How do you feel today, Michelle?
Do you want the full answer?
Yeah, I want the full truth, the real truth.
I feel a little bit excited and a little bit messy, like not messy, a little bit uncertain, like a little kid almost. I noticed I had the realization the other day that I haven't been as excited to like wake up and have like go about my day. It's like all of a sudden without realizing it, some of my like days and routines felt like pre-written and like lacking potential and magic and unknown and excitement. And I was like, oh, because I had a period of time where I was really waking up like, is the day gonna hold me? Or like, oh, and that kind of diminished. And I've just been like, doing my thing. And I was like, oh, I want that back. And this morning I woke up with a little hint of that again. Like something turned the corner and I'm grasping that feeling again. So it's like, oh, I'm a little excited, but I also feel like with the unknown comes this mild unsteadiness, like a kid going into a new school. Like, am I gonna make it here? So that's how I feel. How do you feel?
First, isn't it refreshing to get like an honest answer from that question?
Do you know what's refreshing? It's so refreshing to give an honest answer. It's like, oh, I can tell you the truth.
Okay, how am I feeling? Geez, sometimes I don't know the answer to that question until my autopilot response would be like, good, I'm good. Even when I'm not good, or even, and so I need to sink into that question for just a second to really check in with my body and myself. How am I doing this morning? How am I doing today? I am feeling a buzzing type of energy, but almost like a little bit of an excited yet slightly chaotic buzzing energy. And it also might have to do with where I am in my own cycle right now. Like in my own menstrual cycle right now, but I'm feeling excited. I'm feeling excited to be here to have this conversation with you. And then there's like this background noise going on in my mind. There's this buzzing of almost this overactive energy that I can easily, when I'm in this excited state of creativity or a peak of energy, it can very easily tip over into doing way too much, or wanting to dig into way too much, or wanting to commit to way too much, or it's almost this unpresent buzzing energy. And so I feel right in this moment I'm straddling that line.
Mm. Um, where are you in your cycle right now?
So I am on day 7, I believe. Yeah, day
Uh,
7.
you know what's interesting about that? Isn't it like I initially always think about if my hormones or my cycle are going to like affect my emotions or my, I don't know, equilibrium. I think of it in different times of my cycle, but it's just what you just described. Your hormones, like you have to like straddle this balance in this line just in different ways in different places.
Yeah. You know what? So this energy that I feel right now, it's this excited buzzing, and actually I've been feeling it rise for a couple days. So I think that's like normal with where I am in my cycle. But what I most notice about the energy I feel, or the what I feel right now, is that I'm not present. Like, I'm present in our conversation in this moment, but you know, for example, yesterday I was showering and I'm like washing my hair, and then I'm like, what, did I just put shampoo in my hair? I had no recollection. None. Like none. No, I still don't know if I put shampoo in twice, which I only usually put it in once. Or I'm go for a walk, and usually like around this time of the year, the leaves are all changing. The leaves are falling. It's just the most beautiful time of the year. And I have this like desire to just take in all the beauty of it. But there's this buzzing energy in me that's like taking me from the moment. And it's like I don't remember. I don't, when you're deeply present, you're taking in every moment. Yeah, I'm in that unpresent, excited, creative, passionate part of my psyche, or part of my that's how I feel in this moment. That's how I feel today.
Hmm. I want like part of me wants to go down that rabbit hole, but like I
Yeah.
don't want.
That's a whole other podcast.
But wait, before we let it go entirely,
Uh-huh.
how do you embrace that? So, like how do you really embrace the beauty and let this part of your cycle be what it is and feel aligned?
Oh, you know what? I think the answer to that question, I don't think I feel perfectly aligned right now. I actually think the topic of this conversation around emotions being the doorway to your alignment is exactly what I need right now. Because I think if I were to go a couple layers deeper into that buzzing energy, like that the buzzing sensation I feel, because that's not an emotion. That's how I feel physically. That's how I can describe it. But I also feel like I just took a deep breath. Like I also feel my breath really shallow. That's always a sign for me that I'm not I'm not fully present in my body right now. And so I think in order to fully embrace this part of my cycle and the energy I feel and the creativity I feel, I think I need to come back, and I need to find my way back to alignment. And the
Mm.
way I do that is through my emotions.
Do you want to lean in a little right now?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, how do you want to do that? What's the easiest way to sink a layer or two deeper?
All right. So I love doing like body scans. So starting with like when orient, maybe let's both do this, Michelle.
Okay,
And
okay.
anyone listening, if you feel inspired to drop into your body to check in on how you're feeling. So, like orienting your attention inwards towards your body and taking a couple nice, big, deep breaths just to kind of neutralize some of the energy. And let's do a body scan. So starting with the very root of your spine and then rising really slowly up your torso towards your heart and your chest, your neck, your head, that space in between your eyes, and maybe even going to the space above your head. And let's just notice where you feel the most amount of energy or sensation. And again, you might not even be able to name what that is, but it might feel heavy, it might feel tight, it might feel buzzing like how I described earlier. But just try to locate where that lives in your body. And then go ahead and place your hands over that area. And send your breath right there, right to that space. Almost as if to like loosen it up, expand into it, loosen kind of the rough edges of it. And just stay here with your breath. And ask yourself if this feeling or the sensation was an emotion. What is the emotion that lives here? And give it a name, like name that emotion. And don't judge it or change it or try to polish it. Just give it a name. Don't even try to make sense of it. And breathe into that feeling, that emotion. And perhaps go one layer deeper. What is beneath that emotion? And maybe even a layer deeper than that. What's beneath that emotion? Give that a name. And keep doing that layering exercise until you've put your finger on what you actually feel. And even notice if the sensations in your body have shifted. Oftentimes, when we are able to name the emotions, when we're able to sink into the emotion, that initial sensation of anxiety or buzzing or tightness actually starts to subside. And now we're sinking into like, what is at the root? What is the root emotion that I feel? And the first step in moving through that emotion is to actually give it a name and like to properly put your finger on what it is that I actually feel in this moment. Okay, so Michelle, what do you feel?
First of all, I feel it in my solar plexus like nobody. It's just like raging in my solar plexus. It's like so obvious. And it is at the very bottom, like terror and exhilaration.
Ooh.
Like just like almost like, and it's like in relation to like the ride of life. Like to me, in it, like the truth of how life feels to me is like so intense. Terror existing as a human and expressing and like walking around terrifying to me, and also it's like it's kind of exhilarating. Like there's such magical things about being alive that it's both, and it's just swirling in there so loud.
Oh, wow. I want to go, I want to like unpack that with you.
Yes, okay, but pause. First, when you were leading me and whoever else through a body
Yeah.
scan, as you were talking, were you able to relax and feel it for yourself, or do you need a minute to like connect for you?
No, I was able to.
Okay.
So the initial feeling for me was over my chest. So like right like on my chest. That's where I felt it the most. So kind of more associated with like my heart chakra. And the initial sensation that I felt, the feeling was that chaotic buzzing. Beneath that chaotic buzzing, if I could name an emotion, it felt like urgency. I'm not sure if urgency is an emotion, but is a urgent which urgency is not an emotion, is it? It's but that's what it felt like. It felt like an urgency. Um and then beneath the urgency felt like overwhelm. And even as I say it, you could hear I'm taking a bigger breath. I'm like sinking into a little bit deeper. And beneath the overwhelm, when I got to the very root, and I probably have to unpack this a little bit more because I did it quite quickly. Like and guiding other people through it is different than really sinking it into it
Yeah.
for yourself. But I think at the root of that overwhelm is a lack.
Mm.
There's a lack. And in my experience, at when we dig into an emotion, and you know and I would, a quote unquote negative emotion, although I don't really believe there are any like truly negative emotions, but whenever I dig into a negative emotion and get to a root and properly name a root, there's always some type of flavor of fear. And to me, fear represents things like lack, scarcity, not enough, like fill in the blanks. I'm not enough. There's not enough, whatever. Or like a disconnection of some kind, like a disconnect of some kind. And so when I get to that energy, that's where I know I've reached the bottom of the barrel of like I've named the thing. And I always know I've named the thing because the buzzing or whatever the surface level feeling, usually for me it's anxiety.
Mm.
I'm much more anxiety prone. If I don't do my normal like resets and practices and check in with my emotions regularly, I would live with anxiety 24/7. It is the way. I think I have a very sensitive nervous system, and it's just runs deep. And so that's typically the initial feeling, is this state of anxiety. Today it's more like a buzzing, an excited buzzing, but other days it's like a doom anxiety. But when I get to the root, there is some type of fear, lack, scarcity, not enough fear. And then what happens when I get there is, okay, and I sink into the emotion. No longer am I feeling the surface level feelings, or perhaps that's subsided a little bit. And now I'm in what I actually feel.
Mm. Mm.
Imagine entering into a conversation and, how are you feeling today? And to be able to respond, today I'm feeling, um, not enough.
Yeah.
Today I feel not enough today. That's how I'm showing up in the world today.
Mm.
And 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 properly naming that is really powerful, because that's how we can begin to shift.
Yeah. I'm just laughing. I'm laughing thinking of someone asking me how I'm feeling and me being like, terror. Today, terror. Terror at the
Right.
roller coaster of this life. Yeah.
And, a lot of people wouldn't know what to do with that. Like, that would actually make them feel
Yeah.
very uncomfortable if you arrived into a coffee date or a discussion with that. Um,
100%. Yeah.
but what if that was just totally okay?
Mm.
You are entering into a conversation. We are entering into this podcast conversation. You feel terror and I feel not enough. you know? And there's nothing to fix or change or heal. We're not broken. We don't need to be put back together. And what if that was okay?
Mm. That right there is the one thing that stops me from even considering going to like the heart of how I'm feeling and sharing it in most instances, because I detest the feeling of being like, if I were to say I feel terror and someone saying, no, 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 don't feel that. You don't have,
Yeah.
it's okay. It's okay. You have nothing to
Life's
be scared about.
fine.
It'll all be fine. You're wonderful. It's great. Life will work out for you. And it's like, oh, true. But like, let me have my terror for as long as I want to have it, or as long as it's there. Like, don't, I hate.
Dismiss it. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I really dislike? I dislike that. I also dislike, probably equally, when people feel sorry for me or look at me like I am there's something wrong with me for how I feel, or uh you know um like worry about me and my feelings, and don't hold me, in coaching. There's a beautiful coaching principle that was coined by the International Coaching Federation that says, you and I are whole, capable, resourceful, and creative. And I love that embodying that principle for myself and then embodying it for others has been such a game changer for me, because you can come into a conversation with me, Michelle, and say, I feel terror today. And I don't have to see you as like this thing, this human that needs to be fixed or put back together, or there's something wrong with you for feeling terror. I can hold you so whole and we can move on with our conversation, even though you feel terror right now,
Yeah.
Um, I don't like the feeling of someone feeling sorry for me or wanting to save, fix, or heal me, or offering me all sorts of advice about what I should do or how I should feel or how I should fix this. I think that's why I love the true art of coaching
Yeah.
so much, because that's, as coaches, we are trained to hold space for anything that comes up, any emotions that come up,
Yeah.
without trying to fix or put anyone back together or dismiss.
I think you're naming the exact, precise, most powerful, enjoyable, transformative piece of coaching for me personally. It's like, like, yes, hold space for me and like all of my wisdom, but having the space for my emotions to come out and to not be dismissed or tried to be fixed or repressed or distracted from or overcome, and just having a space where my emotions can come and be there and I can get the messages that I need from them.
Mm.
I need that. I need it to be okay. I need it to be okay. Um, because, okay, I think you're the same as me in this. And I think there's so many people, not every single person will relate to this, but I am such an emotional creature in my nature. Like, I am such an emotional creature. And it is essential to my survival and thriving and happiness to be able to have and create the space to commune with my emotions and hear them and honor them and get their messages and learn from them. It's like I need it like I need water, or else I'm not okay.
I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. When I am this wasn't always the case, but when I started to just like really honor my emotions and started to use my emotions as a doorway to my alignment, as a doorway to my wisdom, as a doorway to my soul. Now, when I feel anxiety or when I feel the first initial feelings of something's off and wrong or something's not feeling good in my body in terms of like my emotions, even though I can't quite name it, it's more like a feeling at first, I crave going inward. It's the only thing that will make me feel better.
Mm.
The only thing. Nothing else does it. Like the old things that used to work, like the old distractions, or turning on Netflix, or like shopping. Although I've never been a huge shopper, but like the things that we do to mask our emotions. None of that works anymore. Nothing. Like nothing
Yeah.
works like, oh, what do I feel? And like sometimes I can do that on my own through my journal or meditating. And sometimes I need a really skilled space holder, like a coach, to be able to hold that space for me without the projection, without someone else. And that's probably the hardest thing about that is the hardest thing about receiving someone else's words, is that we are, like, as human beings, we filter another person's words through our own lived experiences. The first thing we usually do is, oh, when have I ever felt like that? Or when have I ever helped someone who's felt like that? Or what experience have I had that's like mimicked what that feels familiar to what this person is experiencing? And that creates a lens on how we're hearing the other person. And that's not that's not helpful in that moment. Like, it really isn't.
Mm.
What I need in that moment is someone to release or to see me as whole, capable, resourceful, and creative, and allow me to feel the full range of my emotions without projecting anything onto me.
Yeah. Do you know what I need? I need the exact same thing. Need the exact same thing. And I really need someone to, I shouldn't say I need someone to. It works really well for me when someone holds the perspective that my emotions are not a direct reflection of like my okayness or my like if I'm feeling horrible things, it doesn't mean I'm in a horrible place. If I'm feeling, like whatever I'm feeling, it's not like a direct reflection on me. I really need someone to hold the perspective of, ooh, this is just like interesting information. This is that you could be feeling absolutely horrendous right now, but there's a chance that like you're in a really good place and you just need this important information. Like, I really need that because it helps when someone else, like, I can get lost in my emotions and sometimes I forget that for a second. It's easy for me to become identified with whatever I'm feeling and worry that, oh no, I feel so angry. What if it means like, this relationship is actually horrible. It's like it's easy for me to get swept away. And so me remembering and then someone else really being anchored into, oh, just because you're furious or enraged doesn't mean like things are bad and not going to be okay. This is just
Mm.
interesting. Let's explore. I I need someone to be able to hold that, or else I just need to deal with my emotions on my own.
Completely. Oh, I completely agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, the phrase that you've said, and I think we're going to title this episode Emotions
Mm-hmm.
as a Portal to Your Soul. How does an emotion go from this like this consuming feeling into a portal into your soul?
One of my favorite quotes of all time is from Robert Frost. You know this quote well. And he says, the best way out is always through. And I don't know what the heck he was talking about when he made that quote, but the way I interpret that quote is in terms of emotions. The best way out of a overwhelming, anxious, fearful, terrified, not enough, whatever it is you're feeling, the best way out of that emotion is to move right through it. And so, in the MRA, we teach the 3 steps to alignment, which is essentially like, how do you move through your emotions? And so step 1 is to name it. So that's what we did earlier, right? We just we go into our body, we use our so often if our minds can't name it, like our bodies know, our bodies can't lie, our bodies know what's really there. And so I love to use the body as a tool, not a tool, but an access point to just get in there and really be able to locate it, name it. Where do I feel it? Okay, name it. Put words to it and try to get to the real root of what it is I feel. So that's like step 1, is to name it. And sometimes people need some assistance with like naming emotions. If naming emotions is new, things that can really help is, you can even just Google online emotions wheel. And then there's like all sorts of emotions. You could actually go through the wheel and say, like, do I feel that? No. Oh yeah, that's what I feel. And like, keep going until you've really properly named, oh yeah, that's what I feel. Because there's so much power in naming it. The second we name it, it loses its, I shouldn't say loses, it loosens its hold on us. It loosens the hold, that the vice grip on us. So that's step 1, name it. Step 2 in the Mind Rebel 3 steps to alignment is to feel it. And that quote, to me, that the best way out is always through. And that means feeling it, like really honoring it. No, name it. Don't try to change it. Don't try to fix it. Don't try to minimize it. Don't try to push it down. Be with it. Like, invite it in. Invite it in. There is, I cannot remember. I think we might have talked about this on a previous podcast episode, or maybe we've talked about this in class. It's starting to kind of blend together a little. Our conversations are starting to blend together, Michelle. But there was this piece of research that said that an emotion actually doesn't typically last more than 90 seconds, which is fascinating, really. Sometimes we feel like if we feel an emotion, we will get washed away. Like, there's no depth, there's no end to this emotion that I feel. But if we just allow ourselves to feel, and that could look like, to me, I have a couple different ways of moving through that step 2, which is often the hardest part for people, is to like really allow yourself to feel.
Yeah.
And a couple things that help me is, or a couple tools that I have, are journaling. So when I journal, I go through these stages. Name it. What do I feel? Name, like, get to the root of it. Then when I'm in feel it, like, I just let myself go. What do I feel? And oftentimes it's, like, to my logical mind, it's ridiculous. Like, it's ridiculous. And I could talk myself out of It's ridiculous that you feel
Yeah.
this way, you know? But feel it. Like, it's important to not minimize it or not try to sweep it away or make yourself to feel like shameful for feeling these things or ridiculous for feeling these things. Just feel it. Just like feel it. Write it out. Cry. Punch something. I don't, feel it. I like to feel it in meditations. Um, and just allow yourself to go there gently and as deep as and far as you're ready to go. And sometimes feel it for me takes minutes. Sometimes it takes days of revisiting, like going back to name it, feel it, shift it, going back, going back. But that step 2 is to feel it. And what happens when we allow ourselves to feel an emotion fully is that there is typically a shift it moment, which is step 3 of this process, shift it. And there's a shift it moment. And that shift it moment might just simply be a big breath,
Mm.
or just even a little bit of relief, or the slightest bit of shift in perspective or hope, or laughter or humor, or oh, okay, it's not that bad. But like in the good way, like not in the suppressing way, but like in the, oh, I just think about when I first learned about name it, feel it, shift it, it was simply by witnessing my own process of how I move through emotions, and also by witnessing my clients as a coach and witnessing how they move through emotions. And then I took that concept and I started to observe my children, who were toddlers at the time. And it was like, toddlers teach us how to fully feel an emotion and how to fully release. They teach us that. They feel something so deeply and express it to its fullest, like fullest expression. And then they shift, and then they come back, and then it's like over. They
Mm.
teach us how to. It's what happens when we get older. We start to shove things down or not trust it or think it's too much, or society tells us like, and then it gets all convoluted inside and complicated. But this is what our bodies were designed to do, right? Like, it's what our bodies were designed to do. And so when we have that shifted moment, like, follow the wave of that, like follow the shift, follow the wave. And that to me is when we're coming back home to ourselves. And whenever I feel a shifted moment, that's my portal. That's my access point to my wisdom, my intuition, my soul, my whatever you call it. And that's where I love to ask my higher self or my wisdom questions. Like, what am I not seeing clearly about this situation? Or what's my next best step here? Or how should I move forward? And when I'm in that regulated state, or when I'm coming back home to myself, that's how I visualize it, literally, like I'm coming back home to myself. That's the voice I want to listen to. And sometimes it's clear as day. This is your next step. Or sometimes it's like, put this down, come back to this tomorrow.
Mm.
Or it could be a range of things, but that is how we use our emotions as a doorway to our soul.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, oh gosh, I have so many thoughts right now. I'm feeling excited. I think I'm feeling excited because I'm finally starting to get good at this. And I've found name it, feel it, shift it. Obviously, I have known about it for a long time. I've practiced it for a long time, but I'm finally actually getting good at it. Um, the feel it piece that you said is, can be hardest for people, was absolutely hard, like the hardest part for me. Absolutely, because my brain got in the way so much of the feel it piece. Um, my brain would even trick me into thinking I was feeling it, but I wasn't. I was
Ooh.
thinking about the feeling, but I wasn't feeling it. And just like shifting out of my head, dropping into my body. Gosh, it was so challenging for me. So challenging because I had so much fear built in deep around like expressing all of these emotions because I judged a lot of my emotions. And the practice, like what it actually kind of looks like for me to do it really well, it's almost like instead of calling it like name it, feel it, shift it, it's almost like the art of indulging in tantrums in order to as a path towards alignment, because that's what it feels so messy. It feels like okay, I should be doing beautiful name it, feel it, shift it, not having a tantrum, but like I need to have little tantrums, either a little tantrum in my journal or a little tantrum out loud. And it's like my brain worried that that was going to be horrible. Like if you have a little tantrum, it's not going to be good. But in reality, it's working so well and it's making me excited. I'm like, "Oh, I can have a little tantrum." And not only do I feel better because 'cause I'm not carrying around like this feeling, but surprisingly, like people are responding quite well. Like I'm not tantruming. I'm not tantruming in front of everyone. Like there's a time and a place, but like I've been playing with having little tantrums in my relationship or like at home, and they are so well received. It's shocking. It's like it's blowing my mind.
Wow. So okay, let's elaborate. Tell me
Okay.
more.
Okay. Oh gosh, I have like a little example, but it's so embarrassing and so revealing. I think I'm gonna say it though, because it's just like it just happened. And it was like the most I ever let myself tantrum right in the moment. Normally for me, like as I've been getting better, it's like, oh, I notice like I've probably had a feeling, but in the moment, I didn't know how to express it. So I stored it in and I kept walking around and not feeling good. And eventually I'm like, why am I not feeling good? And I go back in later and feel it. But I've been getting a little bit better. I had this moment where I was so proud of myself. I did such a good job of not storing the emotion first. Like I felt it and I was like,
Mm.
"Oh, I'm going to feel it right now." And it was, oh my gosh, this is going to sound so crazy. Okay. So, um okay, in my relationship, one thing about me and my partner, which is great that like we're actually on the same page, is like I am the most sharply monogamous person you could ever imagine. Not just like firmly monogamous, but like sharply. Like like there are so many things that I'm like, no, that is only me, or no, that is only you, that is only us. Like so many things, more like, and the other day, so we both have kids and we both have like really wonderful relationships with our exes. It's like it's
Yeah,
wonderful.
yeah.
It
You guys are incredible like models for what that could look like. Okay, keep going.
it's
Sorry.
like it's so good. And so it's so wonderful on both sides. There's so much like there's no actual there's no fear, there's no tension, there's no resentment. There's just it's just we're so lucky on both sides. It's wonderful. Um and we both have a lot of interaction, dropping off, picking up kids and whatever. And the other day he brought home like his ex sent with the kids a bunch of baking, and he was like, oh, by the way, she sent this like baking for lunches. And I felt this like rise up in me, and I was like, okay. And then I went back to chopping and I was like, wait, no, I, I don't like this. I bake for you, you enjoy my baking. Like I felt this like this possessiveness, this jealousy. And I was like, actually, I don't like it. And like there was like this amusement that crept onto his face, and I like just started saying, I was like, and it was tantrumy. It was very tantrumy, and it was the exact feeling, but also like my heart was open and there was no blaming because it was just the pure feeling. I was like, I don't like it. I reject it. I'm jealous. I do that. No, I reject it. This is like my space. This is my kitchen. I make the treats. Like I make you guys happy this way. And I just like let it all out. I got to be as like I just like embraced it. And the response was like, he was so amused and like so amused and so like receptive and honoring. Like it was, I felt, it was the best feeling in the whole world. It's like, in that moment, like that was like the best I ever did. So I feel like I have lots of learning to do. But then I was like, wow, I'm free now. I'm not holding on to anything. There's no resentment. That was so silly.
You
Wow.
didn't have
It's
to
like,
throw the baking out the window or feed it
no.
to the chickens.
But
Yeah.
I said, I was like, I don't want it in my fridge. I want it out. I want you to, you know, but getting to just indulge in the expression and the feeling made it so, oh, I'm silly, right? But it was so good. I didn't store anything in me. And also, I was so like met and understood and seen. And like the next day, and I could tell he was like, he treated me so softly, like so like, oh, it for some reason inspired more tenderness than like my resentment or weird little comments might have had I held it in, right? That just gets like defensiveness. It inspired so much tenderness in him. And I enjoyed it so much. And the next day, and here's what else. Oh God. Oh, this is so embarrassing. Okay, oh, do you know what I oh my God, do you know what I did that night? So that night, okay, so I like did the expressing, but I could feel I had a little more feeling to do. And I was like, oh, I have this energy in me. How do I move it? How do I keep moving it? I don't want it to get stuck. And I was like, I'm going to make brownies. I'm the baker. You're going to enjoy my brownies. So I made, and he was like, you're going to make brownies? And I was like, yes. He was like, okay. Oh my God, like you're crazy and awesome. You go for it. So I made the brownies. I put extra sprinkles. I made them extra good. I was like, oh, I'm such a good baker. And then put the treats in all the kids' lunches. And the next day, the kids didn't eat the treat from their mom or like from his ex. They ate my brownies instead in the lunch. Like they got both in their lunch. And he was like, just so you know, the kids liked yours better. And he was like just like trying to, and it's not that like I was like still hanging on to that, but it was the like, I'm going to honor what bothers you, even if it's so silly. It's ridiculous. I know it's ridiculous. I know it is. But my ridiculousness was honored in like, it didn't make me feel dumb for feeling that way, which was shocking. It was shocking because when I make myself dumb for feeling that way, when I judge my own feelings and I shove them down, then when they come out, they come out weird ways. Then I get the reflection of you're dumb for feeling that way. But when I honored them, I was met with like, your silly little feeling I care about, and I just want you to not, I want you to feel good. And I just felt like in that moment I've touched on something magic here. Like the feel, like to actually feel and express some moments out loud, some moments in my journal. It's like the feeling part of it, and not getting tricked into thinking, not getting tricked and just actually thinking about your feeling, but feeling it, moving the energy of it through your body, through your hand, through baking, through like moving.
Yeah.
The feeling is magic.
Yeah.
It's magic. And but like, it's been so scary for me to feel and express my feelings. It's been such a, oh, it's been such a like a journey to cultivate the courage to try feeling it and try expressing it.
Your story, it, and so thanks for very vulnerably sharing that, because I think that if people were really, 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 really honest with themselves, it's incredibly relatable.
Hmm. I hope so.
And it might not be the exact scenario that's relatable. However, if we're as human beings, as like these imperfect human beings, if we're really honest with ourselves and really honest with our feelings and our emotions and the things that activate us or trigger us, and we're not suppressing it, it is when we suppress it, it is when we don't honor it, that it comes out in other ways. It comes out as aggression, it comes out in passive aggressive comments, it comes out in making the brownies anyway, and like like it comes out in other really in ways that can be incredibly unhealthy in our relationships. And and that in the Mind Rebel Academy, we talk about, and we've done a previous episode on this, but we talk about these different personas that live within us. We talk about the rebel mind persona, that's like the part of you that's like really, really raw, and the part of you that is most deeply connected to that fear state, like at the root, like that fear state, that lack, scarcity, not enough. That's like the rebel mind part of you. And then there's the guard part of you that almost protects the rebel mind. We've done a whole podcast on the guard in particular, because the guard can be so sneaky in terms of like how the guard shows up in your life. And then you've got the authentic self part of you, which is the part of you that, like, when you're home, when you're back home to yourself, when you know you're feeling like all regulated in your body, and you're feeling that shifted, like that we were talking about earlier, that's like you coming home to your authentic self. But I believe that when we don't honor our emotions, we're living in a state of either our guard or rebel minds. And when we're living in a state of our guard or rebel minds, we're activating other people, we're engaging other people's guards and rebel minds. And then it's just like the battle of the guards or the battle of the rebel minds. And nothing good comes of that in relationship.
Yeah.
Nothing good.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you sharing this story, because I don't think I do that. I think I have almost like a heightened sense of personal responsibility of, I'm activated or triggered right now. I have to work through my emotions on my own time, in my
Mhm.
own way, and then engage the human in front of me or the situation in front of me. But I really appreciate the messiness that you're embracing in the Name It, Feel It, Shift It process of being able to name, or being able to like name it and feel it so purely and honestly, because I think that's disarming for someone else to witness and hold, that like this is how I'm feeling right now, and this is,
Yeah.
I don't know, there's something I really appreciate about the story that you just shared.
Yeah. Um, you know what? Do you know why I think it's disarming and why it was received so well and why I want to keep like learning to do that is because one thing I noticed was that when I was able to like just look at the feeling and feel the feeling itself, I wasn't making a story or blaming because I was like really
Right.
allowing the feeling. And so I felt like mad and jealous and like, no, no. But in the moment, I didn't feel mad at anyone. I wasn't angry at anyone. I didn't, no one was
Right. There's no
doing something.
blaming.
Yeah, no
Yeah.
one did anything wrong in my story. Like in my, there was no one did anything wrong. And um, I think there was like a key connection there to like fully just trusting that, oh, I'm having an emotion for a reason. It's like this emotion is meaningful, and this emotion, whether it's like good or bad, is good. And if I just look at it and embrace it, um, I can learn from it's like it's going to bring a message. But the second I feel like I'm having an emotion that I don't want to be having, then that's when my brain starts to blame someone for it. Do you know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like,
Mhm.
someone did something wrong. I can't believe I'm having this feeling, you know?
Yeah, I do
And
know what you mean. Yeah.
and whether I say that out loud or just carry it inside,
Mhm.
it's like you're right. It's like that is me walking around in my rebel or my guard, and people feel it either obviously or subtly, you know?
Yeah. Okay, can we talk about this discovery you've had recently? So just as we're recording this in this moment, we just began our 10th cohort of the Mind Rebel practitioner
Mm,
or coach training series. And we're in part one, which is the practitioner training, which is where we dive into all this work. So we're in the 10th cohort. And Michelle, you were part of the first cohort. So, and you have been with me ever since. And
yeah.
so you have literally moved through this material 10 times now.
Yeah.
And you had this incredible discovery um very recently, and I'm wondering if we can talk a little bit about that, because I think that this is a doorway, like these personas that we create, the rebel mind, the guard, the authentic self, and the way we personify them, the way we it's a concept called metacognition. It's a way to take the intricate feelings inside of ourselves and the nuanced feelings inside of ourselves, and we create a metaphor around it so that we can more easily observe it. We can look at it, we can observe it, we can feel it. When I'm in feel it, who's feeling is my guard and my rebel mind, right? and
Mhm.
and oftentimes it doesn't make logical sense. Like, I can easily talk my way out of you. That is ridiculous. You should not feel that way. And shove, 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 shove. No,
Yeah.
suppress, 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 suppress. But by creating these personas, so I've got, my rebel mind persona is this 4-year-old version of myself. And my guard persona is Brienne of Tarth from Game of Thrones. And so it makes more sense that my 4-year-old self is feeling like not enough, or like I'm lacking something, or like this version of, like, an adult version of Taryn so it or when I'm feeling and activated in my guard, it makes more sense to be able to visualize Brienne of Tarth rather than how I see myself, or how so it creates this rich imagery around what we're feeling, so that we can go there, so that we can more deeply honor what we feel. And so this so I'm just kind of laying the stage of some of the work that we do in practitioner training, because I think your discovery was really important. So I'm gonna
Yeah.
hand it over to you.
Yeah, I actually think this discovery I had opened the doorway to me responding to the experience the other day about the baking. Like, it shone a light on something. So yeah, I do think these things are directly related. Um, okay. Even before the very first practitioner training that I was a part of, I went to when you were doing in-person
Retreats. Yeah.
retreats, and that was and that was I want to say, was it like 2018 that this? I don't feel like
Yeah, it's probably
2018.
28. Yeah.
And so it's the first time I'm sitting there and I hear the concepts of rebel mind and authentic self. And we were doing an exercise where we were like writing about who is our authentic self, who is our rebel mind. And at the time, I was able to see my authentic self so clearly. She came through. I knew things about her and I was like, yes. And if I read the description I wrote back then, I would be like, yeah, yep, that's her. And I found it so hard to see my rebel mind, like the fearful part of me. And I remember there was like only two things I wrote down on the paper about her. I was like, maybe she's wearing a really ugly yellow sweatsuit, and or maybe she's invisible. I don't know, but like I can't see her. I know I have a lot of fears, and so I know she must have a lot of fears, but like I can't see her. And through every practitioner training, where every person is exploring their rebel mind or authentic self, and then guards. I got more and more clarity on my authentic self, more and more clarity, like over time, more clarity on my guard, but still, like my rebel mind uh, was still like, I don't know, maybe she's invisible. I can't see her. I don't know. Like she's, I don't know. And I realized like I'm so lucky to be in these conversations in so many places. Like these conversations are blending, like me and you here
Mhm.
in practitioner with other people about the podcast and my sisters and I was realizing through talking about my guard that my guard tries to protect me by she's like a librarian. She tries to protect me. She wants to know all the right answers. She wants to be really smart. She wants to be really prepared. Um, and she doesn't want, she just is very put together, in one way or another. There's like a facade there of being capable, being smart, being right, being, tidy, whatever. And I had this moment in practitioner the other day while you were leading everyone through the material for the 10th time I've heard it, like the 10th time. And finally something clicked. You were saying something along the lines of the guard is like the guard is there to protect. The guard is either protecting your authentic self or your rebel mind. And I kind of thought about, it entered into my head like, how is my guard protecting my rebel mind? Like what is she protecting? And um this image came to me. So there was this time when I was in grade 1 and I was wearing a yellow sweatsuit and I found school so terrifying and I was so scared to raise my hand or to ask for anything or to do anything disruptive, um, that I was just like almost constantly paralyzed by fear. And there was this one day, it was in the winter, I had to pee so bad. I had to pee so bad. And for some reason, I found it so scary to raise my hand and to say, "Can I go to the washroom?" So I sat there straining this physical need, not even a not even like it was like
Like yearning or desire.
yeah,
Yeah.
not
No,
even
no.
like a feeling like, oh, I feel like playing outside. It was like a feeling of like I very badly need to pee. But I for some reason did not have the like the whatever connection from my brain to my head to my body that said, of course, that's like a valid feeling that other people should honor. For some reason, I was like, no, hold it in. You're going to be so disruptive. It's too scary. Someone's going to be mad at you. The teacher told other people they couldn't go, like, oh, you should just hold it. And so I sat there in grade 1. In grade 1, I sat there repressing my feeling until I peed my pants in class
Oh.
on my chair. And I was so ashamed. Like my great, like, I'm sure, like, I think, back in the day, like parents were potty training kids and they're like 1.5 and 2. Like I was so ashamed. Right. And it was like this, like, oh my God, I hope no one sees me, like this shame. I'm like literally sitting in my shame of my pee. Oh my God, I hope no one sees. I'm a failure for like peeing my pants as a 6-year-old in grade 1. I'm a failure for not being brave enough to go to the bathroom. What's wrong with me? I am like, why am I so sensitive? Why am I, oh my God, like no other kids are doing, like, what is happening? And I just realized, oh, of course, I couldn't see my rebel mind for so long because my guard was like, don't look at her.
Mhm.
She's like, she's very flawed. You are very flawed at your core. You are way too sensitive. There's shame there. Your feelings are wonky. You're just like, God, don't look at her. And so it was never until so it's really never until now that I've actually seen my rebel mind. Like, I've never seen her. I knew she was there. I had the idea that she was wearing a yellow sweatsuit, which is really cool that and funny that that was the first thought of like, maybe she's wearing a yellow sweatsuit and maybe she's invisible. And somehow my subconscious already knew, but like I couldn't gather the picture into my mind. Like that day I peed my pants, I was wearing like that was the moment
That's
my
wild.
subconscious was trying to point at. I was wearing a yellow sweatsuit. And so it's only for the first time now that I can actually clearly see what it what it looks like when I'm in my rebel mind. And that is the version of me that's just like suppressing what I feel, denying my needs, being terrified to speak my wants, needs, feelings, uh, just hold it in, hold it in, repress it, try to hang on a little longer until I inevitably just like fail and then feel ashamed. It's my rebel mind. And it's so like, it every so many things are making sense now that I know that that's my rebel mind. That's what I go to in fear.
Yeah.
And so knowing that helps me feel so much more inclined to to do the opposite, to like give that rebel mind the antidote of like when she's trying to hold the fears and the feelings and the
Mhm.
needs and the desires and the wants in, to like go in and, oh no, like we need to bring these out. You need to show them to the world. You need to feel them. You need to say them. You need to express them. You need to trust them. You don't need to be afraid of them. You don't need to hide them. Bring them,
Mm.
bring them out. And so it's like, and because I've kind of been doing that, but not really, it's making me so excited. It's like, oh
Yeah.
wow, I think I'm gonna start feeling a lot better if I keep doing this. Like it's making me feel hopeful. Like, oh, what instead of suppressing, like what else can I bring forward? Where am I gonna free myself up now? It feels like, ooh, possibilities are opening again.
Which is why that conversation with your partner was and to be able to say it out loud and to express it was so important,
Yeah. It was
right?
like it was like
Yeah.
I am
You're asking to go to the washroom, you know?
yeah. Yes. I'm like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I'm having a feeling
Uh,
I have to go to the washroom. That makes sense. I have to go," saying it. Yeah.
your guard is your librarian.
Yeah.
Th So, okay, so I'm wondering if you can put more if you can just elaborate a little bit more. So, of, like, the MO of your librarian, the MO of your guard, like, what was the like, you are a very emotional and emotionally expressive human,
Mm.
you know? W Talk to me about the MO of your guard and how your guard has been operating up until now.
Yeah. So, there's these other parts of my guard that so like we've talked about before, the way the guard shifts depending
Yeah.
on whether she's closer to the rebel mind or closer to the authentic self. But one thing my guard was doing, my guard wants to bypass the feel it. My
Yeah.
guard does
Most guards
not.
do. Most guards don't wanna go to feel it because, like, most
Yes.
guards don't want you to have access to the rebel mind because their
Mm,
existence is to protect from is to protect. Yeah.
yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay.
So my guard did not want me to have to feel these things. My guard. So I would so if I would feel a feeling, especially an uncomfortable feeling, anything in the realm of anger, anything
Mm.
in the realm of anger, especially, my guard, oof, my guard responds to. My guard especially judges anger because I think I have this idea that like I remember really young learning about the anger iceberg in school. Like I remember that
Hmm.
so young. It's like one of my earliest school memories. And I remember there was this like emotional education program that I had at my school, like when I was really, really young. And they had like sea creatures. I don't know if anyone else remembers that. Anyway, I remember them talking about like, if you're feeling angry, really it's not anger. There's so much underneath it, which is true. But my brain interpreted that as, well, so if I'm going to be good and right and act the way these teachers are saying I shouldn't get angry. I should very quickly go to what's under it, and then I should try to, instead of being angry at someone, what I should do is I should learn to like calmly communicate. So my brain was like, oh, the anger's wrong. It's the wrong answer on the test to get angry and be angry. If I'm going to be really smart, I need to go to these other things to show the teachers and the people that like I'm understanding.
So this
Okay.
is your librarian.
This is the formation of my
The
librarian.
formation. Okay.
Yeah, this is
Yeah.
how my librarian got formed in like
Okay.
very, very young years. Like the earliest of years. And so my librarian super judges anger. And so anytime anger comes up, my librarian wants to not do the wrong thing and just be angry or like emotionally unintelligent. My librarian wants to shut that down. And then she goes into thinking mode about how to fix the situation. And normally
Mm.
she either wants to fix me or she wants to fix someone else. And usually she probably wants to do both. She wants to fix it with, sometimes she wants to put blame on someone. She wants to point out what's wrong. She wants to fix it. Um, she wants to explain very clearly, eloquently, and intelligently to someone what they're doing wrong because she thinks that that's the route to getting rid of my angry feeling. Like if I can tell someone what they're doing wrong so they won't do it anymore, then I won't feel angry, you know, and then she'll just fix it. Um she'll fix it with everything that she knows, and she'll fix it by being right. She'll just fix it. And so she has because she really fears that if I go into my anger, to my feelings, to my neediness, to my sadness, to like my wanting, to my like just into like the rich emotional world, she really fears that it's like it's not going to be okay. I'm my feelings themselves are wrong. They're too much. People won't like them. I won't be loved. I won't be liked. I'll be rejected. I'll be shut down. So, like, I don't want to feel any of that. So, I'm just going to like do that now, shove that aside, and fix it. Does that
Yeah.
paint it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So this discovery of your rebel mind has opened up a portal to the actual feelings, the real
Yeah.
feelings beneath the surface.
Yeah. And I have it's like, you know, pieces of my real feelings have been coming
Of
up.
course.
You know, like
Yes.
since my practitioner
Yeah.
training, the process has started, right? Like, but it's been more in the secret, quiet, dark moments of my room in my journal, or with like someone so lovely holding space for me, right? But not so much in the real world. So I've been like, oh,
Mm.
look at the way I really feel, but like more privately, more secretly. And this discovery of this clarity I have now on my rebel mind, my guard, and my authentic self. Now I see like the directness of the portal to my authentic self, to like my wisdom, to everything I want. My authentic self embraces the wholeness of me. She
Mhm.
doesn't think she's flawed. she embraces like the human I am. She embraces all of me. So if she embraces that I am a human and I'm in a body and I am like an animal with feelings and instincts, she's okay with all of that. She embraces that. She is ready to live this existence as a human with all of that richness and complexity. And it's really interesting. It's so obvious now, but it feels like this new revelation that my rebel mind was like, because I was so closed off and holding them in, it's like I was blocking the most direct portal to my authentic self. She just wants to function in this flowing human animal way where I'm feeling and releasing, and that's like the key to everything. And from her, from my authentic self, that's where I can make every powerful choice. That's where I can
Yeah.
see everything that's true to me. Yeah.
I love this.
Yeah.
Sorry, it also just goes to show how layered we are and nuanced we are, and how, there's a reasons our guards were formed. There's a reason they exist. And I think the journey of stepping, what am I trying to say? Okay, the journey of discovering our real, most authentic selves. It's not this, like we're talking about her, like she's this, version outside of us that we strive to get to, but it's not that at all. It's that the more we discover, the more we like peel back the layers of ourselves, the more we discover ourselves, the more we honor the fullness, the humanness of ourselves, the closer to that version we get,
Mm-hmm.
the more we can access, the more we can see, the more we can embody that version of ourselves that's already there beneath all the layers, beneath all the conditioning, beneath all the, the masks we wear and the fears we hold, and she's there, or he, or, they are there. And I really, 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 really believe that our purpose in this lifetime, like our purpose, the reason we're here, is to first and foremost discover that part of ourselves, like that true part of ourselves. And that part of ourselves is, it's like a continuous discovery because we're always changing, but to discover that part of ourselves and then to simply and fully express that part of ourselves, through the various outlets of our life. But like, what if that was just it? What if that was our only purpose in life? What if that was our purpose? That when I have been in the, when I have, there are moments in life where you feel like you're touching the divine.
Yeah.
Like you feel like you're touching like ecstatic bliss, but like not excited, chaotic excitement, like where you're on a trip or like, it's just like in the simplest of moments, you're touching what feels like I've had moments where I'm staring at, I can remember them. I'm staring at the moon, or I'm staring at a tree, or I'm staring at my children, or I'm staring at my husband, or I'm in a moment and I feel like I'm touching the divine. I feel like my whole body is, the emotions in my body are, it's ecstasy without the drug, or without something external making me happy. It's something coming from inside out. And those moments are, it's like, it's those are the moments when I know I am seeing the world through like the pureness of my authentic self, and like the clarity of my authentic self. Am I making any sense at all?
Yeah, you are. What you're describing right now, to me, is the key to feeling the most free I could possibly ever feel. It's like what
Hmm.
you're describing means true, pure freedom to me.
Right. It has nothing to do with something good coming, like the promotion, the job, the this, the that. Like it's not outside in, it's inside out.
Mhm.
And you're right, it is freedom. And I think that not that I'm not sure the goal is to feel ecstasy every minute of the day. That's not what I'm saying, but just to feel maybe that is possible. Who knows? Maybe that is possible. I don't know. But the goal, like I think our true purpose is to truly come back home to ourselves
Yeah,
and to touch that part of ourselves and to express that part of ourselves and to like that's it.
yeah. I I I totally I think you're right. I totally agree. And it's not even just the moments of like ecstasy and awe and wonder that are satisfying. It's like the full range of like whatever is the truth of your, all of the parts of you combined together. So like not just your authentic self, but
Yeah.
your authentic self in union with your
Yeah.
rebel mind and your guard. When they're all in union, they're, the organism that is you, whatever the truth is of you in that moment, being able to just be
Yes.
free to see it,
Yes.
accept it, express it. That is, that is, that feels like true freedom. It feels so deeply in alignment. Like, I can't think of, when I think of purpose, I think of like the most deeply satisfying. I think of satisfaction of like fulfilling your purpose is like deeply satisfying. And I don't know if I've found anything more satisfying than just being free to be and feel exactly the truth of what I
Yeah.
feel in that moment. It's like, n- not, I don't know if anything to me feels as good as the freedom to actually be and feel who you are.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Whew.
Before I know we probably have to like start kind of like thinking of wrapping up soon, but before we go, the way that I describe my rebel and my guard and my authentic self and the way that I relate to all of my feelings, um, I know there's parts that are so relatable to you, but is there anything inside of you that feels like it's a very different flavor, but is
Mm.
so true to you?
Hmm. Oh, good question. Um, okay, so maybe slightly different flavors. Like my guards, you know, my rebel mind, I've known her. I so a slight different take on this is that I didn't know I had a guard. Like a guard wasn't even part of this model. When like back in 2018, when you first learned this model, even when you first took practitioner training, there was no guard persona. The guard wasn't part of this model. It was just like, and I think that's how I experienced the world. It was either uh authentic self or rebel mind. There was no middle. It was straight up terror and fear or joy, like that,
Yeah.
and not much in between. Like that's how I've been since I was very young. Um my rebel mind's name is my nickname growing up, which is TT, which stood for two things. It stood for terrific Taryn, and it also stood for terrified Taryn, because that's how I grew up. Terrified. I was terrified of my own shadow. I was so scared as a child. I slept in my parents' bedroom on the floor until I was 18 years old because I was convinced that someone was going to break into the house and I was just a terrified child. I used to, till I was 18, till I met Sean, my now husband. Okay. I used to wake my dad up in the middle of the night, God love him. And, I picture like a child and then also a teenager. And he would take my hand and he would walk me around all 3 floors of our house, looking in absolutely every corner to show me that no one was there hiding. Okay. Every single night in the middle of the night. It's like fear and terror run deep in my DNA, runs deep in my blood. So coming up with this model, of course, there was only 2 states for me. And then there's like this vacillation in between. But I got to be honest, I don't think my guard persona was actually formed until I became an entrepreneur.
Mm.
I think that's when my guard formed, because the outlet of entrepreneurship and the vulnerability and the risk associated with entrepreneurship in such a fearful body was so great that I developed this protection mechanism, this protector, this brand of Tarth guard that formed.
Mm.
I could be totally wrong about that, but I do, if I really think about my past, that's where she was formed.
Mm.
Okay. And so my rebel mind, I can see her clear as day. She has always been present, clear as day. Her MO is, it's something bad is about to happen. As I even say that, I can feel that activating in my body. Something bad is about to happen that's going to separate me from the people I love, the people and the things that I love. It's like this disconnection that's like at the core of her fear. And so that's like where my rebel mind goes. So when my rebel mind's activated, I want to hide away. I want to protect, like I want to like hold my babies close. I want to like, it doesn't feel safe. Like I don't feel safe. I feel like something bad's coming. My guard, she like has so much compassion. So you know how your guard was like, oh, don't look at her. My guard has a different flavor, like I think because my guard formed later, my guard is almost like this motherly figure to this like meek, weak,
Mm.
version of me but she's got a lot of compassion for her, but she's like, oh, no, you are weak. Like you cannot handle this. I've got this. I'm not going to let anyone hurt you. Like she's very protective and motherly, um, I'm not even going to let anyone see you or access you. I'm just going to I'm going to deal with the world. And the way my guard operates, it's a little bit different. It's got a different flavor than yours. It's not in knowledge or knowing, or I don't, this is going to sound weird. I don't consider myself a smart human. I'm very wise. I have an enormous amount of wisdom. I have an enormous amount of perspective. I'm not book smart. It took me 5 or 6 years to get through a 4-year degree in university. I'm not a book smart person. I'm not. I can't hold or retain facts or numbers, or it's just my brain. But what my guard can do very well is my guard can people please to the my guard is a master at people pleasing, but it's coming from this place of, if I please you and I people please you enough, then you will not you will not touch this vulnerable part of me that's terrified that if I don't people please you, something bad will happen.
Mm.
So my guard is a people pleaser. My guard can control, controlling in a way that everything, like contingency planning, controlling. Like I've got plan A to Z mapped out. And I know, so if plan A doesn't work, I've got plan B. Why? Because I'm trying to protect from worst case scenario happening.
Mm.
I can be hyper vigilant, hyper controlling, hyper aware of other people's perceptions of me, and what they're thinking of me really matters. Like when I'm in my guard, the opinions of others matter more than my own opinion of myself.
Mm.
That's the energy of my guard. My guard is also fiercely loyal. So like loyalty is so like I'm fiercely loyal. Fierce for myself, like my whoever she's, trying to protect, whether it's my rebel mind or my authentic self, but also fiercely loyal to the people I love.
Mm.
To my own detriment. um that's the energy of my guard and my rebel mind. So like
Mm.
same, and I think that might be a universal truth for when people do this work. Anyway, from what I've observed, is that the rebel mind's energetic signature seems to be wrapped up in that really vulnerable fear, like that lack,
Yeah.
scarcity, limitation, not enough. And the guard's energetic signature is some flavor of protection, proving or protection.
Yeah.
But the way they're expressed in the world feels so unique and so nuanced and so different depending on our lived experiences, our internal makeup, our us, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. So what's the flavor for you of like tapping into like what do emotions as a portal look like flowing from like rebel mind guard to authentic self for you?
Okay, so it's usually okay, so I have two portals to it, two access points, and it depends who's activated. Which one is it, the
Mm.
guard triggered or is it the rebel mind triggered? So more often than not, it's my guard who's activated. And so what that looks like is first and foremost going through those emotions. When I name it and feel it, I'm going through those emotions first. And those emotions for me are usually more activated, like more charged, like that's where, for me, that's where anger lives, is in my guard, or like resentment or jealousy, or like not unjustness, or like they're more energized emotions. So I have to access those first. I have to name those first. I have to feel those first. And then that lets me like peel back another layer and another layer to get to what's beneath the guard. What is my guard angry about? Or what's, like that
Mm.
iceberg that you were talking about. I have to
Yeah.
feel all those layers of the iceberg to get to the root. And the root lives in my rebel mind.
Mm.
So that's the typical access point. However, there are times where I'm actually triggered in my rebel mind. It's like I bypassed the guard completely, and it's like, and and so something is highly activated there, and maybe it's like a past traumatic event that's activated, or something that's really activated there. And and that feeling, I go right to, I don't feel safe, something bad's about to happen. It's like a much different feeling than all of my guards emotions. It's like right to the right to the right to the core, right to the source. And so when I'm there, name it, feel it, shift it, feels more like I have to take a more gentle approach.
Mm.
Um, Whereas when I'm trying to express my guards emotions, like I oftentimes feel it, I need to vent it. I need someone to hear me. Like I'll often like vent something to Sean, and I'm like, this is frustrating me. And I know how ridiculous I sound, but I need to express it. I need to get it out in order to like get to the other emotions. Um, but when I go right to the rebel mind emotions, I actually don't even want a coaching session when I'm there.
Mm.
It's almost too vulnerable. I need to be, and that's probably maybe because I'm a trained coach to coach myself in my brain, and I know how to hold space for myself, but like I need to be so quiet with myself. I maybe even journaling's too much. Like I think my most softest landing is when I go meditate.
Mm.
And meditation for me is not emptying my mind. Meditation for me is name it, feel it, shift it within myself.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, what do I feel? Where do I feel it? calling. And then once I name it, okay, I'm scared. Then I call on the visual of my rebel mind. I can see her in this bunker that she's in the dark and she's like terrified and I'm like, okay, let her feel it, let her express it, let her feel all her emotions in the safety of this little bubble I've created for myself. And then in the shift it, I can, oftentimes that's actually when the shift it moment's happening for me in that visualization, it's actually like my guard opening up the door to the cave and like coming down the stairs and saying like, are you ready to come out now? Like,
Mm.
I'm ready to like carry you home now. And she'll like scoop her up and bring her to like my authentic self in this visual I've created.
Mm.
And so it's my guard almost like helping making that transition back home, like that union that you were talking about, that coming back home. It's that union is that shift it moment for me, that reconnection of my authentic self, like scoops up my rebel mind in her arms and, rocks her, does whatever she needs to like soothe her, calm her down so that she can feel safe again. Because honestly, there's nothing more safe to my rebel mind than this reconnection within.
Mm.
Nothing outside of me, no amount of money or
Yeah.
success or opportunities or things that could come outside of me could give me the same solid landing, the same
Yeah.
solid feeling as when I come home within myself in like internally. Like, you know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You're really making me realize, gosh, like I have so much more to explore and integrate here. Like when you're describing the like love and integration and like connection, like the proper place of your guard and the way she facilitates the bringing you back like whole and together. I'm feeling really inspired and like, wow, my guard right now isn't part of wow. Like how do I how do I how do all of my pieces fit together in the most beautiful,
Mhm.
harmonious way? I don't know that yet. Like you're making me inspired that I'm now that I can see them all so clearly,
Yeah.
you're making me inspired to want to figure out that because it's so beautiful. Like when you describe that, I'm like, yeah, I don't quite have that image yet for myself and I want that. That's powerful.
Mm. Yeah, and creating the imagery, like they each have landscapes, they each have homes literally in this
Mm,
image, and I can visualize. So when I'm in my guard is scanning her environment. Like I can see her, she's scanning an environment. She's like got the rebel mind in like a bunker underground, and
yeah.
the authentic self is over there in her garden, and but my guard is very far removed from both of them, and she's scanning, protecting, like, and I can feel that,
Mm,
and so creating the imagery, if you can, if it serves you, and imagery doesn't help everyone, but if it serves you, and like, I think the reason it served me so well is because I spend so much time. Like I literally spend so much time in this internal world that I've created
mm,
for myself. Every day I spend at least once a day, I spend time in this internal world and
yeah.
checking in with everyone, check and visualizing it. Um and I think it's through that I've been able to learn more and more about the MO of my guard, or what's, and the MO of my rebel mind, and what it feels like when they're in union. What does my guard feel like when she's in union? My
Yeah.
guard shifts from this energy of protection to this like energy of removing her armor and laying down her sword and like bowing down in the deepest of reverence to my authentic self. Like such a different energy.
Mm,
And then what happens to my rebel mind as she moves from the state of fear and terror to like the state of like, I am so safe. I am so safely held. And I am so free to be a normal 4-year-old, fun loving child. Like that's what
mm.
it feels like when they're in union, you know?
Yeah. Ooh, like what a y- I feel like that having that that imagery of like that pathway of what needs to happen to come back into alignment, to come into your authentic self, having that visual is such a powerful tool. Like I'm thinking here, okay, next time I'm feeling feelings and I'm like, and I have the urge because I'm gonna still have the urge to repress them and hold them in. That urge
Yeah.
is still what's wired into me. And anytime I allow them out, that's going to be because I'm really present and conscious and brave. And I would love to have that the an image or a pathway of how my guard and my
Hmm.
authentic self are going to help my rebel trust that I don't have to like be ashamed and terrified and like all the things my rebel mind's afraid of about my feelings and needs and desires. Yeah. I want to build that.
We should have like a follow-up podcast in a couple months to see
See-
what the imagery is and what the
Yeah.
pathways are.
Yeah. The last thing that's occurring to me is when I'm hearing us describe our rebel minds and our relationship to emotions and fear, it's like it's occurring to me how like spot on our Enneagram types, like
Yeah. Oh,
how
yeah.
we're relating, and also like I know that for us, so I like okay for me especially like I'm in the emotional triad. So it like makes a lot of sense that I operate as a 2. That's the literally the Enneagram type that denies and represses themselves and focuses on other people,
Hmm.
right? Like that's like
Hmm.
I'm very stereotypical in that type. You operate as a 9. It's like literally your core fear, like your textbook core fear definition, fear of loss, disconnection, Um, and it's like I know people, like I know in theory, and I also know people who don't relate to their emotions in the same way that we do.
Hmm.
And I wonder how I know how my emotions are a portal for me. You know how your
Hmm.
emotions are a portal for you. It's occurring to me that there are other portals with emotions that like we don't even quite
Yeah.
know the flavor of. Um what I don't even know what my question is, but like do you have any insight on how you how someone who doesn't so if someone doesn't relate to either of us at all and they're like,
Yeah.
I'm not like
What
you
are
and I'm
you
not like
talking about? Yeah.
you. Like, do you have any insight on how emotions as a portal to their authentic self could be true for those people?
Oh, good question. Um, yeah, it's because we only know what we know. I don't know, we only know what we know. That's why
Yeah.
advice can be so dangerous, because we only know what we know. Our lens of the world, or the way we operate, I oh God, that's a good question. And I don't know. What's coming up for me is I look at other people in my life who I have great respect for and who seem to be doing this, coming back home to themselves in different ways
Mm,
that I don't understand.
yeah.
So for example, my dad is, he's my dad is like a Buddhist. I don't know if he would say he's a like that is his religion. I don't even know if you would call Buddhism a religion, or I'm not sure what exactly you would call it, but he is. He's deep into meditation, and but the way my dad has accessed his what he would call his authentic self is actually like just through a different way. It's actually through um like almost like squeezing out the mind and the ego completely. Like it's not through emotions, it's through
Mm,
something else. I don't understand it. And
yeah.
we've had very deep philosophical discussions around both of our approaches and how, but they're very different. And and I think at the end of the day, I think I've just, I think that I think honoring that there are so many, this is an approach. This is
Yeah.
an approach that maybe it works really well for deeply emotional humans like you and I, you know? And it seems to work really well for a lot of people who come to the MRA as well.
Yeah.
Um, but it's one of many. I think there are so many different paths.
Mhm.
I look at Sean, my husband Sean, and one of his paths is through, is through jujitsu, which is a whole other approach in philosophy, and releasing energy and emotion through physical feeling and through physicality and through body, and um but different than following an emotion down to a root. It very different, but gets him to the same place. So I think I'm answering your question with more questions. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, here's my guess. I'll just tell you what my guess is.
Okay.
Tell you my guess. I don't know. If I had to like bet on something, this is what I'd bet on. Obviously, every human has emotions. Like we're all physiologically, we have, the different like neurotransmitters and chemicals and hormones and like body systems and nerves and like we all have emotions. So it's possible for anyone to, if they really wanted to, I think it's possible that anyone can use their emotions to, like,
Yeah.
as a
Agreed.
portal to go deeper. However, it may not be the most accessible portal
I love
to
that.
everyone,
Yeah. Yep.
right? Like I'm thinking about Ash, we
Mm-hmm.
love and our family member in the MRA. She's a movement person.
Yeah.
Like the accessible thing for her is like dance and movement, and she lights up when she talks about it,
Yeah.
right? And so for her, it's like I can see why some people would be like, but this is accessible. This is the root. So I can see why people would choose different routes to their alignment and authentic self with different, Nate, when I like talk about emotions with him, he's like, I have two, maybe three emotions. And I'm like, that's not true. And he's just like, no, he's like, it is. Like his internal world is very like, I'm happy or I'm mad or
Yeah.
maybe sometimes I'm a little sad, but even not really. It's like that is it. And he's not just like saying that and hiding it.
Yeah.
It's really like
It's
his
true.
internal
Yeah.
experience, which actually, thank goodness that there's some people like that, because imagine me in a relationship with someone who also had a lot of feelings. So like it's really good that some people just, need to go dance, need to go meditate, need to go work out, need to go do jujitsu as like other portals. But like, it's fascinating. This is my portal though.
Yeah.
This
This
is
is
my
mine
portal.
too. This is my portal too.
Yeah.
Well, I think this was officially our longest podcast in Bold Dreams Held Loosely history, but I thoroughly enjoyed every minute of it.
Oh, me too. Oh, I could talk about emotions even more. Oh gosh.
Yeah. Thanks, Michelle.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being part of this conversation. If it serves you, take a moment to contemplate what your golden nugget is from this exploration. And if you feel inspired, please feel free to share it with us in the comments of this episode on our YouTube channel. To learn more about the MRA and our renowned flagship Mind Rebel coach training series that begins once a year in the spring, please visit our website at www.themindrebel.com.